Hey everyone, it's Strange Michael. I hope you're doing well today. I have a review here that is going to be the wrecking ball of the channel. I've been back for a few days, and I've been making a lot of content. Sorry to hit you with so many reviews. I wanted to get a lot of content out there to kind of recover the things I've been watching and reviewing recently on other channels that I wanted to kind of redo for you guys, refine those reviews. And this is one of the ones that I've been nervous about because there's a lot of mean-ass fans in this franchise, in this IP, that hated my guts on other channels that I've done, hated my guts in real life, friends of mine that are hardcore fans of this IP, that were mad as hell about my opinions on it. Now mind you, I'm a hardcore fan too of Five Nights at Freddy's, the 2023 movie. Not so much the movie, I'm a fan of the games, mainly the first 4 games. I really love them. I started out watching Markiplier play them back in the day, and then I got to the point, like many people, that I watched everybody play them that were popular at that time in the gaming community on YouTube, because I wanted to know everybody's reactions, how fun it could be. And this was at a time, too, where you saw a lot less fake reactions to scary games, and it made it more fun. Now everybody's fake as shit. Nobody's having a good time. Everything's nothing but jump scares, which is obnoxious in my opinion. But watching people like Markiplier play it over and over again, then getting obsessed with the game theory MatPat videos back in the day. This was like 8 years ago, 9 years ago at this point. It's been forever. This movie should have been made ages ago, and like the Heavy Rain movie, which I've always wanted, that never got made and never got released, we got a video game movie that, once again, in my opinion, is pretty lackluster, to be honest with you. And that's going to kick off the hate comments down below from people that are hardcore defending this movie. Again, I consider myself a hardcore fan of the first 4 games. Everything that kind of came after game number 4 for me, I never was a big fan of. Even the newer stuff. I like the concept, I like the ideas, I like the walkthroughs I watched on YouTube of them. But I'm not loving a lot of the new stuff. And of course, this franchise was made by a fucking genius, Scott Cawthon. He brought back point-and-click horror games. It's crazy how popular Five Nights at Freddy's got, especially for the younger kids that were like 8 and 7 years old when this game series first started. It's crazy to me. By the way, they'd be like 16, 17 now. If you were a kid growing up on FNAF, I don't understand the trauma that you have right now, because I would have been petrified if I was a kid growing up on this. I have a lot of correlating experiences that inspired things like FNAF, and I'll get to that later on in my video, but you know, this movie I was really looking forward to, and when the trailer dropped, I was immensely disappointed. And I was like, this is not going to be something I'm going to love. I do consider myself a fan of the franchise, even a hardcore fan of the first 4 games, like I said. And then the movie finally got a release, and Scott Cawthon, of course, has made so much money off of this, dude. He's made books, he's made spin-off games, he's made multiple timelines, he's made comics based on the books. He has so much stuff, short story collections out there that kids eat up. This is the kind of new horror for kids thing that really didn't start out for kids, but became that by the time the 3rd or so game came out. And kids loved it. It wasn't made for them, but they embraced it and they loved it. And Scott, having the good brain that he has, made toys and figurines at like Targets and stuff. You could buy this stuff everywhere. FNAF was literally everywhere. In case you weren't there at the time, it was everywhere. And it's amazing how big this became. Dude's a genius. I don't care what anybody says. I even own the board game from Five Nights at Freddy's that's basically, it's like Don't Wake Daddy, but it's scary as shit. The music that plays, the animatronic Freddy that can jump out at you, it's terrifying. If you haven't played it, you should buy that and play it. Great game. Played it with my mom and my wife over and over again. We love that shit. So getting to the movie, though, the trailer did not impress me. Like I said, I thought it was going to suck. And it had been announced forever that there was going to be nothing but practical effects and nothing but practical animatronics, and it's a super faithful fan-based movie, which it is, I will give it that. It was going to be kind of a culmination of a lot of ideas they had had for like the last 8 years on how to make this movie, and of course it was in development hell forever. And it finally came out, and I didn't watch it till it went to streaming to rent for like $5. And I watched this like a month ago, to be honest with you. It stars Josh Hutcherson, who I grew up with. I think he was in RV with Robin Williams. I loved him in Zathura. I loved him in a lot of stuff. Was too old to give a shit about Hunger Games. Hunger Games was just a ripoff of a lot of shit that I loved, like Anthem, or like Stephen King's The Long Walk, I think is the book. I think that's the title. It's a ripoff of a lot of things, but he was in that too, and he was known by a lot of people especially, and people were excited for him coming to FNAF because of his role in Hunger Games, which is cool. I love the guy. I think he's a great actor. He's one of those guys kind of like Ray Liotta and Sam Jackson that they're just so likable you can't help but enjoy them. And he's kind of nostalgic for me because I grew up watching the guy all the time. Anyway, he is a young man who has had a traumatic past in his life. He had a younger brother get kidnapped right in front of him one day when he was camping with his parents, and he didn't see the face of the guy who kidnapped his brother, never saw his brother again. I don't remember if they said they found the brother's body or not. But anyway, he's gotten older, his parents are gone and dead, and he has a younger sister that's about 9 or 10 or 8, something like that, and he's like in his 30s at this point. And he has to take care of her like a parent. He recently lost his job as a mall cop, mall security guy, because he thought he saw somebody kidnapping a kid, and he went and beat the shit out of that guy in front of everybody in the mall during the daytime. And he's having a hard time finding a new job after that assault charge, and it's just a tough time for him to take care of his younger sister. His aunt, I think is who it was, wants to take the child away from him, basically, and take his kind of rights of guardianship away. And he's kind of considering it. As shitty as it seems, he's kind of considering it because he wants the best for his younger sister. Now, he goes to a temp agency and he meets Matthew Lillard from Scream, who I also love, who played Shaggy when I was a kid, and he gets a job at this 80s abandoned pizzeria called not Five Nights at Freddy's, Freddy Fazbear's Pizzeria. And it's kind of like a Chuck E. Cheese restaurant. If you've ever been to one of those, I think most of you have, or like a Showbiz, if you've ever been to that. Now, I grew up going to Chuck E. Cheese, right? And to this day, I love Chuck E. Cheese. The animatronics on the stage, the dancing, standing in place robots, scare the shit out of me. And let me tell you why. This was the thing that Five Nights at Freddy's became popular with its first game, preying upon this. And I think it's genius. It was a genius thing that had never been done before outside of like Chucky movies and Slappy from Goosebumps. The idea of these animatronics at these pizza restaurants, the fact that it had not been popularized as an idea before this game series came out was crazy to me. I'd never thought of it. Scott Cawthon's a genius, like I said. I had this birthday party that was either mine or a friend of mine's birthday party that I went to, and he dared me to peek under the curtain when the robots weren't singing anymore. And I peeked under there, and all I remember is Chucky looking down at me like that, because when they shut down, they just kind of look down. Sometimes it seems like their eyes close. I was under the impression nowadays that their eyes always close. Apparently that's not the case. Apparently sometimes, because this particular instance, his eyes were open in that dark-ass curtain that I peeked under, and he was looking right at me, and I have never went near those robots ever again. I think that may have been the last time I ever went to Chuck E. Cheese because of how bad that shit scared me. But I remember telling my mom about it. I remember sitting as far as I possibly could away from that stage. And I remember when the Chucky in the costume walks around in Chuck E. Cheese's, I got a little nervous, to be honest with you, because I didn't want him to remember me peeking under when he was napping or whatever. Freaked me the fuck out. My whole life I remember that shit. I remember him looking right at me. To this day, the image of that is terrifying. If you think Foxy coming out of his curtain is scary in the FNAF games, especially in the first one, you don't know shit till you experience it in real life. You don't. But anyway, I had that happen to me. I may have mentioned that in my previous reviews on other channels, but I think I really needed to reinstate that here. I'm terrified of animatronics, to this day. I fucking hate those dancing, gyrating Santa Clauses during Christmas time at Hobby Lobby. Fuck those things. They need to burn in hell. I hate them deeply. My wife still makes fun of those things to this day because of me. But who wants a Santa Claus that gyrates at hips? It's just the weirdest thing. Who buys that? Who wants to put that in the room beside their Christmas tree and their kid has to walk in with that shit dancing in the corner? That is utter nightmare fuel, dude. Anyway, moving along, Josh Hutcherson has to go to this abandoned 80s pizzeria and take care of it. He decides to clean it up and just, kind of nurse it back to a nice, clean environment. It's been abandoned for so long. It's dirty. It's dusty. He vacuums, does some remodeling stuff, and then eventually he encounters the actual animatronics that were left behind, surprisingly enough. And they are Bonnie, Freddy, Chica, and Foxy, who I've always loved. They are the classic animatronics, and you get a couple other ones in here too that are pretty awesome looking, to be honest with you. And I won't tell you about those just in case you haven't seen the movie yet. But he begins to realize these things apparently are haunted by some kind of different type of spirit that kind of plays with him a little bit. And his little sister once he starts bringing her to stay with him overnight. because he doesn't want to leave her by himself or by herself. The babysitter goes missing at some point, so he can't really use her anymore, so he has to bring his younger sister to work with him to sleep there. And this movie is a very weird film. Sometimes it's a comedy, sometimes it's not. It's filled to the brim with jump scare after jump scare. It gets exhausting, especially this balloon boy stuff. There's also the cupcake in the film, in case you care. That's just another one I'll go ahead and tell you about. Of course, he was in the trailer. The cupcake is completely CGI, which irritates the shit out of me. The animatronics, to go ahead and critique them, again, they are not always practical effects. I don't give a shit what Scott says. I don't give a shit what Blumhouse says. They're fucking lying. There are scenes that you can tell, like one shot that looks like a recreation of the security cam footage from back in the original game, of an angle up here with all three of them looking up into the camera. That shit is clearly either from that game or a remastered footage from that game of some sort, because it is clearly CGI animatronics. I don't care what anybody says. But then a lot of scenes have people in a costume for the animatronics. They kind of have that C-3PO syndrome, where they're like, they're, you know, like these young ladies nowadays wear like the belly shirts and shit. They have like that area around the belly like C-3PO does with Anthony Daniels, where it's like a black cloth underneath the metal, and then like the wires just kind of thrown over it. That looks like that sometimes in this movie, which is goofy as hell. But another thing I hate too is the fact that they have the animatronics' eyes turning red every time they kind of go evil or whatever. And I thought they would play up more on this like dangerous robot type of thing, like the Child's Play remake did. And they don't. That's not the case. It's just whenever the ghosts turn them bad or whatever. And that is fucking stupid. I don't know why they did that. I think it's such a weird compromise. That feels like a Blumhouse idea, not a Scott Cawthon idea, because what made these robots scary in the original game was the dead eyes, the doll eyes, like Jaws talked about. This, even if it was a CGI video game, these things looking at you, not having an angry color or anything, you didn't know what they felt towards you. You didn't know the disdain they had towards you and how they just wanted to eat your ass. You didn't know. And it was shocking to play those games or to watch somebody play those video games and see that look from them. Can you imagine how less scary those games would have been if those goofy-ass eyeballs were turning red all the time? I hate that in this movie. I think it takes away so much tension and eeriness to the movie. The atmosphere in this film feels completely edited out. It really does. If you really watch it and pay attention, it feels like they were going to go for certain shots that were going to be slower, more taking their time. They completely deleted that shit to try to speed up the pace a little bit. The movie flies by. The pacing is quick on it. I wouldn't know if I would say it was good or bad, but it feels like there's a lot missing with atmosphere. They got to speed it up. It's clearly a movie that was made for PG-13 audiences. There's like a couple of shots of blink and you miss it gore, which those were cool-ass kills. Gotta tell you, I loved those. The film has a personality. Can I tell you that too? I know I sound like I'm bitching a lot about it, but it's got some good personality that I do enjoy. I do think it does work sometimes, but it gets a little too comedic sometimes. Not with jokes and humor and that kind of thing. I'm cool with that. It's the other stuff that I don't like. The bonding with the animatronics for a little bit stuff that I think is stupid, that fans are defending the fuck out of, and I think you're crazy if you're defending that shit, because I wanted a scary-ass killer animatronics trying to eat people type of movie. That's all I wanted, and I didn't get that shit mostly. There were some characters from the newer games that were kind of thrown in here as a new twist on their lore. I thought that was cool. I don't want to spoil any of that for you, but if you like the newer stuff too, there's some cool references in here. This was a massive disappointment of a movie, despite it looking great. For the budget they had and the kind of sets they shot on, which were more small locations within houses, within the pizzeria most of the time, they look really well shot. The animatronic costumes, when they're used, look excellent, aside from when the red eyes things happen. The gore kills, whatever, they look really cool when they happen. This movie was made to kind of broaden out the audience a little bit, but it's also made for the hardcore fans. If somebody comes in that doesn't know anything about these games, they're not going to understand the end of this movie. Not the ending, but like different things that happen involving characters in this movie. They're not going to get it. My mom, who does not know a thing about Five Nights at Freddy's, could not watch this movie and understand what's going on, I'm telling you. But not only that, even me as a hardcore fan, There's a particular part, I tried to record this review, I may have not mentioned this already, but there's a part of the video, or the movie, that involves a drawing on a wall that is part of the ending of the movie, and I think it is the most stupid, ridiculous shit I've ever seen in my life, and it doesn't make any sense. I don't care what anybody says. Every fan I've talked to at work or otherwise, I've tried to defend that shit, and it's stupid. It's fucking dumb and I hate it. It doesn't make any sense within lore, within context of the movie. It doesn't make sense anywhere you go. It's fucking stupid. This movie has such a bad ending that, like, I don't even know how to explain it. I hope we get sequels, because the fans, the hardcore fans of nowadays, not the hardcore fans back in the day like myself, seem to really love this. And that's cool, that's good, but chill the fuck out. There's a difference between people like me that are embittered Star Wars fans who got fucked constantly by Disney, and still do, versus people like you who got a movie that was made for you. You had a bad ending, it has a couple of lackluster things that hardcore fans from back in the day like myself feel like you needed to improve upon. There's a difference, believe me. This movie was made for you and I'm glad you love it, but fuck man, take some criticism every once in a while. But it's not even aimed at you, it's aimed at the stupid ass movie. Five Nights at Freddy's is not a bad movie. Let me make that very clear. Despite my complaints and my whining a little bit, this is not a bad movie. I think it's just a really, as the kids call it nowadays, mid movie. I think it's really right there down the middle. It's just okay. It's about as average and kind of generic for this concept as you could possibly get. And if it had not been so focused on being a fan-based movie, I think it could have been really, really creepy and scary with some good atmosphere. The comedic stuff was well handled, especially by Nicolas Cage in Willy's Wonderland. I thought that was way better than this movie, to be honest with you, and it's a total ripoff of this franchise, which is a shame. But this movie has good stuff in it. Josh Hutcherson is good. Matthew Lillard, when he's in it, is really good. The little girl, she's good. I was very impressed with her performance. There's a lot of good stuff in here, and there's some twists involving the animatronics that I am just not down for. Not down for, involving the possible haunting going on with them. I wanted way more than what I got with this movie, and I feel like it's a massive disappointment for me personally. And I think some older fans, like myself, feel like that. I think it's fair to feel like that. But if you love the movie, I get it. I get it. You'll never get me to get sold on the damn drawing on the wall part of the movie. That shit is stupid, it makes no sense, and I hold on to that. Anyway, Five Nights at Freddy's, not a bad film, just a very mid-average movie. I just think it's kind of got this generic feel for a movie we haven't seen this concept done a lot of. And I hate to feel that way, but I do feel that way because it's a disappointment. People like myself have been looking around for this movie for 8 fucking years, going on 9 years. We finally get it, and I get this. So, I didn't get any kind of scares or anything. It's filled with a couple of really cool cameos, I thought. One that's even more sad now in hindsight, like a couple of months later after seeing it. But aside from that, I'm really disappointed, to be honest with you. If I had to rate Five Nights at Freddy's on a 5-star basis, I would probably give this probably a 3 out of 5 stars. It's okay. It's really, really, really okay, and that's about as good as you're going to get out of me, to be honest with you. I don't know. What did you guys think of Five Nights at Freddy's? Do you love it? Do you hate it? Did you think it was a disappointment? I'd love to hear everything you have to say about it down in the comment section down below, and everything you think about my review down in the comment section down below. Again, big fan of the original games. Love the board game thing. I think I recommend that almost more than anything from FNAF. I think it's better than the video games, to be honest with you. If you haven't played that, you need to play it. But anyway, what did you think? Put your thoughts and comments down below. Thank you guys. God bless you all. Sorry to offend you if you're a hardcore FNAF fan, but again, remember, I am too. I'm just trying to be fair here. I'm really bummed out about this movie. I don't even know if I want to buy it for my collection, to be honest with you. I kind of do for history's sake, but I'm also like, when I die, do I really want my kids to look at this shit and say, he bought this? You know, like, I don't know. Anyway, see you guys. God bless you. Goodbye.